Hi all, welcome to this session. So today we will go through the Power Architect tutorial. Power Architect is basically a tool. It's a free database design tool, and it helps you to design the database architecture according to your application. Okay, so there is a community version, that is what we are going to use for this particular session. And so we will be starting with the Power Architect, and we will see how to basically work with the Power Architect tool. So let me go back to the Power Architect tool. So in the Power Architect tool, if you could see, basically you will have this tools section, so where you will be you'll be able to take the file and the edit tools. Then there will be a few advanced tools which will help you to create the SQL code from the design which you have created. And you will have a database tree. So this is nothing but the hierarchy of all the tables and everything, all the tables and the entities that you have created. So you'll be able to see the entities, its corresponding attributes, and its corresponding attributes, in fact, along with the data type and the size. So you will be able to, so once you create your design, so this will be kind of your physical model. So you'll be able to see its complete hierarchy there. And then comes so this area is basically called as a playpen. Playpen is nothing but the where you will design your architecture for the application, and there will be a lot of zoom based tools here. And there'll be a lot of tools which will help you to create, modify, update. So all the CRUD operations you will be able to do with this particular operations which are here. So you can give the relationships, and you can give the columns, indices. All those things are basically possible in by this particular tools. So this is kind of the whole structure for your for the Power Architect. And what we could do is that we will just try to see a small we'll try to open the Power Architect and build a small database design, so that you can make your hands dirty along with me. So going back to the tool, so this is the Power Architect tool, SQL Power Architect tool. This is basically freely downloadable. It's a free database design tool. It's an open source tool, and you can open it. So this is your tool. So this is exactly what we have seen. The tools, this is advanced advanced tools which you have, and this is your architecture. Now as of now we don't have anything, so we don't have anything yet to show here. And this is your entry page, and then this is the playpen area where you will be designing the database design. And these are the zoom tools which are available. And these are the new index, insert column, edit the all those, identifying, non-identifying relationships you can mention. All those will come in this particular tools. You will do along with this. So the relationship, attributes, everything could be done with the help of this. So this is what it is. So now what we could do is that we could take a small example and try to follow and do what we could possibly do with this. So let's try to create a customer and order based table. So we will have customer, we will have order, we will have item, and this is the kind of the structure that we are going to create. So basically the customer can give order, and the order will be related to one customer, and the order can have multiple items, and one item can be related to multiple orders. So we will deal with this kind of architecture design, I mean like a design for the customer and order in order architecture. And in this design we will also deal with how to deal with the MS2N relationship, because when order can have multiple items, and the items can be there in multiple orders. So this is an MS2N relationship basically. So we will also try to understand how to create the composite entity, how to come out with the identifying relationship, how to come out with the non-identifying relationship, all the stuff in detail. So we will see how to design them in Power Architect. This is the first thing which you have to, so it's just that we will first design the contextual model. So as you all know that in the contextual model you will have only the entities and its corresponding relationship. Then comes to the fully attributed model. So in the fully attributed model you will have so in the contextual say here this is the same example that we have seen. So in the contextual model we will have it's not model specific. I mean, like, it is not specific to a relational model or a hierarchical model or any kind of model, and we don't worry about the keys here. So it is not database specific. So in this particular model, the only thing which we have to identify is that identify the entities and all the relationships, and draw a rough ERD and find the cardinality. That is important. That means the relationship between them, whether it is MS2N relationship. That is what we do in the contextual model or conceptual model. Once we identify that, we will move on to the fully attributed model. So in the fully attributed model, once the conceptualized ERD is done, then we will be specific about the database model. Say I'm going to draw a relational model, so I'm very clear about it, and I need to also know about the keys associated with each and every attributes. Say I will add the attributes in the structure, and also I will add the foreign keys, the primary key, and everything. And the another thing which you have to keep in mind is that if there is any MS2N relationship which is identified in the context ERD, that has to be resolved at the fully attributed model, because you already know. So in the composite mod entity basically uses the primary key of those two entities which has got a relationship of MS2N. So only if you know, only when you know the attributes, you will be able to come out with a composite entity. That's why we resolve this issue at the fully attributed model level and not at the contextual model level or the conceptual model level. Okay, so we'll be able to solve that issue at the fully attributed model level. So if you have an MS2N issue, then you have to come out with the composite entity, and inside the composite entity try to put the PF case as your primary key, and the primary key of both the tables, and you can split or you can divide your MS2N relationship into two 1:m relationships. So that is how we will resolve an MS2N relationship problem in relational model. And moving over to the next phase, it is basically the physical model. So in the physical model, it is a variant of your fully attributed model plus the data type and its corresponding size. So when you see, so this is kind of just for one particular entity, we have actually shown here, like, what is a PK and what is attribute and its corresponding, data type which is used, and the kind of the bytes which has to be associated with that, everything size and the type is basically mentioned. And here, once you have actually once you know this particular thing, for any developer it is very easier for him to create a database schema, like, okay, create table car, table name is car, and then, okay, the first attribute is registration plate, and this is number, and it should be not null. So this information is very clear, and the PK is very clear. So all this information are very clear. So this is basically specific to a particular relational database. And say if you are using the Oracle database, then you have to use its corresponding data types and size. Say if you are using MySQL, then use its corresponding data type and sizes. So it's very hardware dependent. So that's what you have to understand at this particular level. So these are the three different models that we are going to see and we are going to design using the Power Architect. So here we are going to solve this particular example where you have customer, you have order and item. So the customer is basically related to one or more orders. That means that a customer can buy one or more, can have one or more order or zero or more orders. Sometimes he will enter into the site and he will not buy anything. So that could also be an option. And the order will be associated definitely with the one and only one customer. And the order can have many items. Maybe I am buying so many items at a time, and one item could be associated with multiple orders. So many different customers can buy the same item. So different customers will have different orders, right? So this is the scenario that we are going to develop. So let's go back and try to build this by using so we will first start with a contextual model in the Power Architect. So just create your Power Architect, just open your Power Architect. So this is your Power Architect window. So in the Power Architect window, you're going to start by creating a table. So if you want to start with creating a table, you have something called this plus signal. So when you click on that and when you simply put it inside your playpen, you will be getting this table properties. So in the table properties, just make sure that you are giving the right names. Okay, so whatever name that you are going to give, so that has to be so this is your table name. So say I'm giving like say cust01 is my table name. Okay, and I should have a physical table name. It is better to give the same name, so 01 itself. Okay, so probably I'm not using the this thing, and then the table key. It is always better that whatever be the, so that's why they are actually giving you a small idea of how to give it. So it is always better to give like you know the cust ID, cust 01. Okay, and I'm going to give ID. So ID is my primary key. Okay, so I'm not bothered about the text colors as of now, so I'm creating a table. So you could see that there is a small table which is actually created over here. Now going back to the property, what we have to do. Okay, so now we have actually given like this. So we have given a name for everything, and so we have actually created the customer table. So now can you create the order and the item tables? So you have to now create the order table and the item table. Can you please do it along with me? So pause this video if you want and try to do it by yourself. Otherwise, how you have to do is that you have to click on the plus signal, and then you need to create one here. So now you need to create the order table. So you are creating order. I'm just keeping 01 just for the sake of it, and order 01 itself, and coming over to the PK, I'm just trying to make sure that it is order 01 underscore ID, so that it's very clear for me. So this is my order table. I'm just keeping it here. Now after the order table, I need to create item table. So you can actually pause this video and create it. So again, you have item table. So I'm creating an item 01, and again I'm giving the physical table name as item 01, and I'm giving this as the primary key as item 01 underscore ID. So now that I have got all the three, so this is nothing but, so this is nothing but the three different entities are basically created, if you could see. Now we need to identify the relationships as we have created the entities. So when you look at here, we have actually created the entities. Now the rest of the things is like, we need to make sure that the customer may have may have more orders, like zero or more orders, and the one order will be related with only one customer, and the order can have multiple items, and one item can be related to multiple orders, right? So may will give you an optional relationship, can or must will give you more of a must relationship or a mandatory relationship, right? So now going back to the steps to draw the relationship between the customer and order, select non-identifying relationship. So here I just want to take you again through the slides to understand that what is the difference between an identifying relationship and a non-identifying relationship. So so when you look at an identifying relationship and non-identifying relationship, you should understand, say you have a customer table. So this is another example. So a customer is there, and a movie rental record is there, and payment is there. These are the three different entities or tables related here. So the customer basically can rent, like zero or more orders, and the movie rental record, one payment will be always related with only one movie rental record, right? So this is how the relationship works. So here when you look at this particular relationship, the customers is related to this movie rental record. Each customer, so this customer and the movie rental record is basically related to each other. So when they are related to each other, you could see that the customer number, which is the primary key of this particular table, is acting as the primary key in another table. Okay, so if you have two different tables related, where the primary key of one table is actually the primary key will act as the primary key of another table, then you could say that it is an identifying relationship and your line will be a solid line. Okay, so an identifying relationship is represented by a solid line. Yes, it is a solid line, and through it is the primary key of the parent. So this is the primary key of the parent migrates to the primary key area of the child entity or the table. So now I hope you'll be able to identify. Say so that the common example which I can relate to is your composite entity. So if you have a composite entity where in the composite entity you will keep the primary key of another table as the primary key of this table also, right? So in such relationships, basically you will be following an identifying relationship. Okay, now the another thing is that the payment and the movie rental record is basically related. Okay, but you have this payment transaction number, which is actually not a primary key in the another table, but just as an attribute. Say to even more to relate it to a common scenario which we have seen in the class, we could say that an employee is actually related to a department entity. So employee entity and department entity is actually related. So in order to show that relation, we actually form a foreign key reference. So what we will do is that in the employee table we will keep the department code, but the department code here in the employee table is just a foreign key. It's not a primary key. Hope you are able to understand that. So such kind of relationship is just to relate both the tables. Okay, then we could use a non-identifying relationship and it will be a dotted line. So a non-identifying relationship is represented by a dashed line, and through that the primary key of the parent migrates to non-key area. So this is the non-key area of this particular table. So non-key area means it will be just acting as one of the attribute. Okay, it is not a PFK or it is not a primary key of this particular table. It is just an attribute. So if the primary key of one table migrates to the primary key area of another table, then you could say that it is an identifying relationship. And if the primary key of one table, if it migrates to the non-key area, then you could say that it is a non-identifying relationship, and then the identifying relationship will be shown as a solid line, and the non-identifying relationship will be basically shown as a dotted line. So this is the difference between both of them. So now in this scenario, we need to select a non-identifying relationship between customer and order. So going back to the Power Architect, so we have customer, we have order. So how can you select the non-identifying relationship? Yes, you have the arrows which are here. So the first one is your non-identifying relationship and the second one is the identifying relationship. So I'm selecting the non-identifying relationship. Now what you have to do, you need to click on where it has to go. So it will automatically, by default, it will give you a 1:m relationship. Okay, by default it will give you a 1:m relationship. That is what you have to understand. So by default 1:m relationship is basically created. Now what you have to do is that you need to come out with the relationship between order and item. So you can again come out with order and item. So I am again creating a non-identifying relationship between order and item. You can simply click both the items. So I can click on one, I can keep my cursor on one and click on the other one, so you will get a non-identifying relationship. Okay, so now once the relationships are created, now you know that this relationship which we have formed just now, okay, it's not correct, right? Because order can have multiple items and the item can have multiple orders. So now what we have to do is that we need to change those relationship in the right way which is possible. So how can you change that? So for changing the cardinalities, what you have to do is that you need when you double click on the item, you will get the table properties. So you have to double click on the link. Okay, so once you double click on the link, so it is automatically showing that it is an FK. Okay, so and it is shown, the type of the relationship is shown here. It is a non-identifying relationship. And now from order 1 you have what is that, you should have one or more relationship. I mean, like, you can have you can have one or more relationship here. And the item to order can have one or more relationship. Okay, so now when you look at this particular relation, yeah, probably here we could change it to 0 or more, right? That would be more appropriate. Yes. So an order should contain at least one item, okay, and an item may be part of one of the orders, so one or more orders, okay, so that makes more sense. So this is your relationship. So when you double click on the link, okay, not on the item, when you entity, when you click on the entity, it will take you to the entity properties or table properties. Entities and tables are all the same, okay, entity properties or the table properties. When you click on the link, you will get this. So here we are mainly concentrating on this particular part and this part. So if you were to change anything related to it, so it is clearly showing that, okay, so you are actually creating an FK, okay, so you have an MS to N relationship. So yes, I think it should be fine. Yes, so we have this. So we have this order. So once we create this, we will get this particular structure. So now please understand that your context ERD is complete, okay. So now you have basically created an context ERD. So in context ERD, or in the contextual model of a database design, you will simply identify all its entities and its relationship with the cardinality. So this is the only thing, which you will do in a contextual model. So in the contextual model itself, you have basically created all the three different entities, and when you expand it, you will know that what is the kind of the relationship between the three different models. So this will be really clear to you. This is your context model, okay. So now that we have actually completed the context ERD, we will see how to create the physical model, okay. So the fully attributed model as well. So once we create the fully attributed model, basically, we can directly create the physical model with its, we need to resolve the MS2N anomalies which we have here, and then we need to add the attributes, and then we need to so while we are adding the attribute itself, we will add the data type and its corresponding size. So basically, when we build the context model from the contextual model, here we will directly build the physical model. So that's how it works. So let's see. So the first one which we have to identify is that we could try to resolve the MS2N relationship. So how can we identify resolve the MS2N relationship? Yes, of course, we need to come out with something called, because the order can have multiple items and the multiple can have the item will be associated with multiple orders. So this is how the MS2N relationship. So what we could do is that we need to come out with a common entity, that is composite entity, which is order item, or you could come out with any other name. Then you will relate both of them with the 1:m relationship, right? So here, when you think about it, basically it's a identifying relationship. Why it is an identifying relationship? It is not a non-identifying relationship. This order item between the order and order item and item and order item, this is basically an identifying relationship between, because say the order ID and the item ID. Order ID is the primary key of this particular table, and item ID is a primary key of this particular table. So this order ID will migrate to the primary key area of this order ID, and the item ID will migrate to the primary key area of this order item, right? So it's kind of your PFK. So this one will basically be acting as so the relationship which we have to come forward is your identifying relationship. So hope you are able to follow me. So we need to come out with new identifying relationship. So that's a next step which we have to do. So this is what we are going to do in this particular step, and those identifying relationship will be basically in solid format. So going back to your this one, what you have to do is that you need to come out with a new entity. So the new entity, basically we can give it as order 01 underscore item 01, okay. So I'm just copy pasting that to the physical table, and this one also. So I'm just giving it as order ID underscore IDs. So when you create, this will be a table. Now what you have to do is that you have to click on this is your this is the identifying relationship. So here and this one you have an identifying relationship, sorry, and here you have an identifying relationship, right? So you can actually click on here, and here you will have an identifying relationship, right? So this is how it will be. Now what we have to do is that so we need to make sure that we need to make sure that it's a 1:m relationship, because an order, because here now you will have this order ID and item ID, and we will take a combination of that. So one order ID will be related to the combination of order ID and item ID, right? So order may be related to multiple order items, but one order item will be related to only one order. So the same way back here, so one item will be related to multiple order items, but one order item will be related to only one item. So that's the beauty of this composite entity. So we need to change the structure. So what we could do is that you could just go and see. Yes, it is exactly 1 and 0 and more. So everything is perfect. And if you want to change the line color, you can go ahead and change the color here. Okay, now here when you look at it, this is the one. So if you want to change the line color, you can go ahead and change color. Okay, so now I think it's good, it looks good. And this is your composite entity with the item ID. And so now once you have formed this, you don't require this, so you can actually delete it. So when you delete it, you can simply click over here and delete button, click on the delete, it will be gone. So yes, we forgot to do something here. So this is when order may be related to because an order should have at least one item, right? So here this relationship will be basically one or more relationship, so we forgot to change that. Okay, so now our model looks great, right? Okay, so now it looks great. So now the next major step is basically adding the attributes to each table. So for each table, we need to add the attributes. I mean, like, we need to add the attributes to the customer table. We need to add attributes to the the order table. Say imagine that, or suppose or assume that these are the attributes which you have to add. Can you start adding that? Yes. So how can we do that? Yes. So we will click on the table. Okay, not index, we need to right click and click on new column. So you can either what you could do is that if you want to create new index you will learn in detail next in the coming videos. So index, if you want to click for column, you can actually, because we are basically going to add the columns or the attributes. So what you could do is that you can simply click over to the table and click C. Okay, so it will give you the new column details. So what are the columns which you have to add? So we to add certain columns like this one. These are the details for your columns, right? So these are the details for your columns which you need to add. So you need to add customer ID, F name, L name, font. Okay, and for each one, it is actually given. So whether it is a PK, yes, it is a PK. So customer ID is the PK, and what is the attributes which you have to use? Okay, with the type and its corresponding size is also given. So this kind of an idea has to be there for you as well. So in order to make it more easier, what I will do is I will split my screen. I will split my screen. So the first one, so you have customer ID. So I will give cust 01 ID. Maybe you can give, and this one also cust 01 ID. Some attributes, if you type, it will throw you it already exists, or these are the default ones, because this customer, this order, these are some certain common ones which even the industry use it. So they have actually kept it as the default names or the inbuilt names, or I mean like the reserved names. So sometimes you will not be able to use when you give customer or cust simply. So that's why you have to give like cust 001 or cust 007 or something like that, so that it will not be in conflict with the reserved table names which are already in common. Okay, and this is the primary key, so you need to click over here. Yes, this is your primary key, so you have to click over here. Now the next one which you have to identify is that it is numeric, right? It is basically numeric and 8. So you can type, you have types here. So when you click on the type, we will see whether there is numeric attribute is there. Yes, there is a numeric attribute, and you have to give the precision as 10. Okay, you have to give the precision as 10 here, And then the other one is that as it is a primary key, you cannot allow nulls. Okay, you cannot allow null, and you can click OK. So when you look at the table here, okay, so when you add items, you will have to slightly change the the layout. Otherwise, because as the attributes are added, your table will become big and big. So in order for you to identify and understand it better way, you might have to move it slightly here and there, so that you can get to know about it. So this is an non-identifying relationship, which you have this dotted lines, and these are the solid lines. And see here, when you added this customer, because this is a foreign key reference, it's a non-identifying relationship. So basically it added not at the primary key section. So it is not added at the primary key section, it is basically added at the it is actually, this ID is basically migrated, this primary key is basically migrated to as one of the normal attributes. As we have not added the order ID attributes, it is nothing is shown here. Okay, so this is what you have to, and it is also given like it has to be not null and it is FK. Here it is not null and it is PK. So all this information will be stored. Now what is the next one? The next one is basically the first name, the last name, and the phone number. Okay, so when we click, you can click over here and simply just give a click on the table and click C. So you will have this customer last name and first name. So you can add all those, and I'll get back to you. So one thing which you have to identify or keep in mind is that when you are adding the other attributes, you don't have to click this in primary key or allow nulls. Okay, so you don't have to do that. Say if you are making sure that all the fields are not null, then you can actually click on this. Otherwise you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so allow not null, no, you are not going to allow any not null. Yes, okay, click OK. That means that when you click over to it, it will show you like each and every attribute not null. So you are actually enforcing some rule onto this table in such a way that each of the attribute which you have in this particular table does not have to be null. So I have actually created everything. So I have added the attributes for the customer, and I have added the attributes for order item, and the item, the order table entity, the item entity. And you could also see how this composite entity works. So as you have actually created an identifying relationship between the order and the order item and order item, you would have noticed that once you entered this order item, automatically the order ID and the item ID would have been populated here in the primary section of this order item, and it would have been given with PFKs. And just to have a little bit more details, I have given this quantity as we have given this quantity as one of the other attributes for this one. Okay, so this is the complete database structure which you. So now basically you have created the physical model. So you have customer, and it is very clear that the customer between the order, it is a non-identifying relationship, and they have the dotted lines in between, and you could see that the customer ID is basically the FK. And when you look at this is actually a composite entity, and the relationship between them and the order ID and the item ID is basically migrated to the physical area, the primary key area of this particular item composite entity, and they are the PFKs. And how we have actually changed all the relationship, the the cardinalities and everything. So this is now we have created from the context model we have created first, then we have actually created a fully attributed model with the data type and the size associated with, and also the constraints. So this is basically a complete creation of your physical ERD. So now you are basically clear about, say if you are given with one particular scenario, how you have to start with a context model, and from the context model you have to come out with the various relationship. And coming back to the physical model, you have to first resolve any of the MS2N relationship, you have to resolve that. Then you have to identify the attributes along with its data types and the size. So once you have done that, you will be able to get the complete design. So this is a simple example. So like that, your original or real-time application designs will be much more bigger and complicated than this. Yes, I will show you something more, so that say I have actually once told you that once this design is basically generated. So this physical design is highly related to which kind of the database that you are using. So I have already told you that before once in the class. So that means that, say, at the physical model, say if you are going to generate an Oracle DB, then its corresponding code can be generated. Or if you are going to use an MySQL, then its corresponding code could be generated. So I'll just show you like how can you basically generate that. You can go to this tools. Okay, when you go to this tools, you have something called this forward engineer. So basically this Power Architect tool will support both forward and reverse engineering. Okay, so we are not going in details about what is forward engineering, what is reverse engineering and all, but just understand that you can actually, from the design which you have created, you can actually create the code from the by using this. So this is an advanced tool structure which is available here. So click on the forward engineer, and from here basically you can select which database that you are going to use, whether you are going to use the SQL database or whether you are going to use the Oracle. So here it is, for you will have a better version of Oracle probably, or else click on the Oracle which is available, and click on the OK. So if there is any warnings as of now, which is not a major warning, just try to ignore the warnings. Once you ignore the warning, you could see that this code will be generated. So this is basically an SQL, like an Oracle SQL code, like create table, table name. You have created all the tables, so create table, the table name. So one of your item 01 is there, cust 01 is there, order 01 is there. Okay, and then you have your order and item. This is your composite entity. Okay, so all these things are basically there. So these are the creation. So as of now, you need to understand, like this is the code for creating the table. Don't worry about the alter table, that is nothing but how you have actually added the constraints, so you don't have to worry about it now. So you can just simply look over to this particular code. So if you have this particular code, you can, as a developer, you can just copy paste this, and basically you will have an option called execute itself from here. So if you have actually connected this Power Architect directly to the database, okay, by using the driver, JDBC driver, you will be able to directly execute the code from here and run this particular code, and all the tables will be generated in your database directly. Okay, so that option is available. So this is the one which you have actually done. So you can actually generate the code from the software, and if the database is connected with the Power Architect software, you can actually execute this particular code and generate the tables, and then you can go there and alter if you want. So that doesn't mean that the code which is generated here will be perfect. Okay, sometimes when you generate the code by using the auto generation software, the code generation software which is there in the designing software, definitely you will have to go back and tweak your code according to your application. Sometimes you will have to change a little bit, but then also you don't have to generate the code, or so that is basically possible. So there is an option which is available called the forward engineering option, which will allow you to take your design to whichever code you want. Okay, so if it is Oracle, or if it is MySQL, say Sybase, or whichever you want, PostgreSQL, whichever is that you are using in your application in your company, then you can actually execute that particular code if it is actually connected. Otherwise, at least you can at least simply see the code, and you can utilize that code for creating your databases. So now you have actually designed the physical model of your database. Now you can use this for creating the databases and the original real-time applications. So in this video, we have basically understood about Power Architect, how to create the context model, how to come out with the relationships, the two different type of relationship, non-identifying relationship, identifying relationship, and also we have seen about how to generate the code by using the Power Architect software based on or in accordance with the kind of the database that you use. So do this by yourself, and if you have any doubts, always get back to me. Thank you so much.